Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Before we start, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, to pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. So it is my pleasure to introduce our host and panellists for today. First up, we have Mel Brady. She's a fabric-obsessed craftsperson, yes, and a long-term collector of vintage fashion. Over this side, we have Migelly. He is a tattoo artist. He has a studio at Mango Hill. His special interest is mandalas and sacred geometry. Thank you. And our glamorous host, Jared Mifsud. He is a performer of musical theatre, amongst other things. He's a self-professed lover of makeup and heels, as we can all clearly see. So, thank you everyone for being here, and I'll pass it over to you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Julie. Oh, it's just so wonderful to be here this morning with you all. When I was contacted about this exhibition opening and this event especially, I just got so excited. I think it's such a fabulous concept and such a wonderful thing to be here talking about this morning. When we were going through it and I was looking into the exhibition, It's Personal, and what it was all about, I was having a look on the website and there was this one little excerpt, I guess, that Julie had put on there that I really resonated with me, and so I just wanted to read it before we dive into the conversation today. Every day, men and women alike apply lotions, groom their hair and carry out hidden beauty regimes to present themselves to the world. But have you ever considered why and how technology, social attitudes and politics have shaped the products that we use? And I just, even as we were all just walking through the exhibition then in the gallery and looking at how over the time, certain situations, scenarios have influenced fashion, the things we use, how we express ourselves, and that they are all now coming back today in a very big way. And Julie and I were just talking before, what I found so fascinating is that it's coming back in a way that we're choosing to bring it back. It's not something that's being forced upon us, or it's not something that we have to do. It's because it's ways that we are now actually choosing to express ourselves and have those discussions. And so what better way to continue this conversation with two fabulous people with me here today, Migelly and Mel, who both in their own ways help people express themselves and who they are and things like that. So before we dive into the conversation, I will just give you a little bit more of a background about me. I have been working in the entertainment industry for over 12 years professionally now. I've done a lot of travel. I worked on cruise ships for many years. I lived in Japan for a couple of years. So I've been very grateful to experience so many different cultures and different things that we now are so lucky to be able to, because of the world we live in, have here with us in Australia as well. So before we get started, I'm going to just quickly have a chat with each of our panellists here today, and just so we can get to know them a little bit more. So Migelly, I'll start with you. Just tell us, I guess, a little bit about yourself, a little about the tattoo industry, what got you started, and a little things like that. So I'll hand over to you.
I've been tattooing about 13 years, come from a background of a tattooed family. It sort of got me into artwork or freedom of speech with my body, artwork, sort of how I wanted to display myself. So yeah, basically about it.
Yeah, very cool. And so you said you're from a family of tattoos. So your parents both do it?
Most of the people in my family have a couple, but yeah, my parents were quite heavily tattooed. When you think of heavily tattooed back in, say, the 80s and 90s, you know, they've more than 10 was heavily tattooed, where my father has both arms, chest, legs, you know, and my mother had more than 10, which, you know, back then was quite heavily tattooed. Nowadays, someone like me would be heavily tattooed, and 10s really, if you can count them, you don't have enough in some aspects, you know. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And so I guess when you say back in the day for your parents, what was it like when you would be out with your parents, when people would see their tattoos, especially back in the day when it was, I guess, something that was more taboo?
Yeah, well, I remember, say, even something like Wet and Wild, going there with my father at a young age, and everyone would stare at him with his shirt off, and just he was the freak show or the playing rugby league, he was called moving pictures because when he ran, it was just a blur of colours. To then going there, as an adult myself, and now trying to spot someone without the tattoo it's a way the world's coming now, and it's getting more accepted, which is great for us. But I guess it's great for everyone who wants to display themselves how they wish.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come back and follow up on that. I'll just quickly say hello to Mel. Hi, Mel. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well.
Wonderful to have you. So just give us a little bit of background about yourself, your interest with Gin Rummy Vintage, the store that you have as well. Just tell us a little bit that and what got you into the world of vintage and all things fabulous.
I think my first memories and impressions were of fabric and pattern. So it's been a lifelong thing of just dressing up, even growing up on an orchard, I would have to dress up to go out into the paddock to do my chores and things like that. So it's always been a part of me to, dress to do anything. And I guess my grandmother was a dressmaker, and my mum is an accomplished sewer as well. I do okay on a sewing machine, but sometimes I think my grandmother's looking down and going, with all the corners that I tend to cut. So, and being born in the mid-70s, I sort of missed that era, but I think that's the era that I most identify with. So op shopping as a teenager, I would find all these incredible vintage clothes, and it just started collecting from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so with I guess you were saying your grandmother was a sewer. Did your mum sew as well? Or
Yeah. She taught me how to use my grandmother's old Elna.
Oh, fantastic.
Which weighed half a metric ton, I think, compared to the modern sewing machines. It was a real elephant.
Yeah, my mum is a massive sewer and also a lover of all things vintage. She has the most ridiculous collection of fabrics. It's insane. She just keeps buying. There's all those Facebook groups now that you can do your fabric de-stash, and there's always people buying and swapping.
Yeah.
And
there's ones that you buy to use, and then there's the fabric that you buy just to have it. So, and I think anyone who sews knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I know. And my mum, she also sews and taught me a little bit how to sew. I got quite lazy with it because there's people to do that for me now. But I also know she still loves her old sewing machine that she's had since she was 20. I think it was one of the first things she bought when she moved out of home was her first proper sewing machine, and she still uses it, and every time she takes it into the sewing shop to get fixed, the ladies are always like, oh, they don't make them like this anymore, which I love.
Yeah. You can't kill those old ones, they just keep going. It's incredible.
Absolutely. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the exhibition. It's personal. So looking at the exhibition specifically and the inspiration behind it and in being how that we express ourselves. Migelly, I'll start with you. What are some ways that I guess that you find that you express yourself as an individual, and also are there any specific artists that you draw inspiration from when it comes to your tattoos and things like that?
Yeah, well, with the world it is now with social media, I can be anywhere taking inspiration from other portfolios, from artwork around. The style of work that I do is a lot of sacred geometry, and it stems from a lot of organic stuff. So, nature is a huge part of the artwork that I sort of get my stuff from. But with Instagram and Facebook these days, honestly, you can look up to these big time artists who are, I guess, mainstream these days. With the more followers you have, you sort of start believing that that's where you want to go with your artwork, but trying to just create your own individual style from that, and that's sort of where I draw my inspiration from, I guess. Sort of following inner footsteps of the greats, but sort of putting my own mark on it, so people can look at it and go, look, that's Miguel's work, not something that's copied textbooks like anyone with any sort of creative stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love that you said that, because it is so cool as artists and as creatives. I guess we all do find a niche and something that, it must be so cool when someone can see a piece on someone's body and go, oh, that's a Migelly Shaw piece. That must be a really cool feeling.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we try and aim for. There's no point copying something else or mimicking someone that you might like. You've got to have your own flair and creative into it, you know.
Absolutely, I guess, and that is something that would help your shop stand out from the rest.
Exactly.
Because when you are getting a tattoo, that's something that's on your body forever, and it is something that you would want to be an individual piece and something that has meaning.
Yeah, and that's what we all try and aim for. Stand out from the crowd to open up my opportunities to where I'm travelling, and people coming to me for me, not just coming to me for sacred geometry. They like what I do individually, not just the style. So
yeah, absolutely, that's fascinating. And Mel, what about you? Same question. What are some things that I guess we've talked about your style and your fashion, but what are some people or things that you draw inspiration from, and just looking at the commentary of what we use to express ourselves in society today? It's a big question.
There is. There's so many so many parts to that, really. I think I'm just inspired by every day. Like there's always something in nature, in the media. The 60s and 70s, definitely a huge inspiration. Not the era for people so much, but definitely for bright colours and patterns and sort of, stepping out of that dark time of after the wars and kind of just going, just throwing everything at it. I really love that. And it's like an endless kind of source of thought for me, especially with florals of the 70s. I know that's really specific, but that's something that is a long-term plan to explore on a much deeper level. So I could literally go on about that for days.
Amazing.
Inspiration.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about the florals of the 70s. What is it that, I guess, about that draws you to it? And I guess, what is it that differentiates it from other floral patterns that we are seeing today? Is there something specific that you see in the 70s that is a repetition or something like that?
I think it was just a really interesting reaction to the limitations post-war, and discovering new methods of making fabrics, like all those polyesters and stuff that really hold the sweat and the smell. And as a vintage collector, it's some fabrics you can smell all the people who wore those clothes before you got to them, and it's never coming out. I think just the way that the florals from, say, the 1900s onwards, when there was a whole language of flowers, sort of taking that but then turning it up to 11 with those sort of psychedelic aspects of it, and sort of making it really trippy and visually compelling, rather than just being a pretty kind of thing. And I mean, I could go on and on about it.
No, I love it. And it's just, that's the fascinating thing, is I guess back then there was such a change in the ability to make things. It was made more accessible, so I guess they were able to do more things like that, which I love. Migelly, I wanted to talk more about tattoos, because it's something that has always fascinated me, but I don't have any yet, and it's just, I know. So this could be the day, ladies and gentlemen. It may change today. Yeah, exactly. We're going to have a live tattoo showing right here on this stage. But I guess how does one even train to become a tattoo artist?
It's quite a traditional trade. It is still, I guess, an ancient trade. We still have a master. You still go to a studio. You sort of dedicate all your time and your effort to those. It's very much like a barbering, where if you're not working, you're not earning money. So my apprenticeship started 2008 in a studio with a couple, just two other people, and I basically for the first 6 months worked for nothing. So it was just drawing, showing them what I can do, producing more drawings, basically being their shop pet, getting lunches to looking after their kids one afternoon, and this was all around my personal life, and a second job so I can keep food on the table and living with my best friend's grandmother who supported me, to you're really getting through those hard times to become someone, or the possibility of becoming someone. So each individual has a different, I guess, take on it. I mean, I know I've had about 5 different apprentices, and each one of them are different, whether how fast you learn and stuff. It's very much on competency. So I've had a artist that I could have qualified in 2 years, and I've had artists that I probably wouldn't qualify after 10 just because they just don't have the initiative, or they're just a little bit slower in the learning, or they just don't have the drive. Where tattooing, you really need to have that drive. You're marking someone's body permanently. It's not a hairstyle that you can change. It's not a clothing item you can take off. It's permanent. It's the only thing that we take to the grave. So besides gold teeth or fillings, it's really going to mark you and, going to display how you are for the rest of your life. So that's why I find it so special as well.
Absolutely, it is. And I guess for a lot of people, they are coming to you for a specific reason. So how do you first practice doing a tattoo? Like, obviously you don't just start practicing on human flesh. Well, yes, you do?
Look, some people do.
Wow.
I did.
Wow.
They are not great. Let's just say my close friends still like me. But the correct way, these days, I had my apprentice yesterday practicing on a honeydew melon, bananas, stuff like that. It's just a fleshy fruit that you can start gaining weight training with your hand with a machine that's vibrating and putting out 7 volts. It's not the most easiest thing in the world, but with a bit of steady hand and guidance, you can get that. People used to use pig skin. My friend, the butcher, used to give me slabs of pig skin, and it was just a bit gross after a while. So, honestly, the best way is to try and find that friend of yours to give you a thigh and just supply him with pants for the rest of his life to hide them.
Oh my gosh, I just find that so fascinating. That's really cool. When you're going into, I guess when you have that first meeting with a client about a potential tattoo and things that they would like, what are some of the first steps, I guess, that you go through with a client discussing about the tattoo?
So these days, usually everyone will just contact social media. It's the most easiest way. But we, at our studio, offer consultations one-on-one. You come in, you sit down. It's a private little space with just myself and the client. We discuss what they want, where they want it, how big, a budget, style, everything that they can. Basically, we just spitball back and forth, and I take notes that they don't really make sense to myself or them. We gather reference pictures of stuff that they like, and then I create a unique piece based on all of the above. A lot of my stuff comes down to body placement as well, because not every piece is going to fit each person. Just like a dress or anything like that, you can have a $1,000 hat made for you, but it's not going to fit your friend. So these tattoos that I create are very much based on your arm or your leg. So that's where it's really important to have that one-on-one. It's a bit harder for my clientele who are flying interstate or overseas and stuff, but we try and take lots of photos, get them to send photos, and with what I can do these days with digital, an iPad now, we can zoom in, enhance, check for any blemishes on the skin, and make our design really around each person's body.
Yeah, absolutely. I think technology is such a fascinating thing with what it now allows us to do, like you said, with social media and with being able to research now the different eras and the 70s and that kind of thing. We have such a wealth of knowledge available to us now, which
it's all in our pocket now.
Yeah, it's all right there, which is just amazing. So do you, obviously before COVID, so do you get a lot of international visitors and clients?
So if you broke it down, it's about 50-50 between my studio and overseas or interstate. So I like to do a lot of conventions, either interstate or overseas, to sort of build my reputation. Unfortunately, I leave my wife and child behind, but these things build not just my portfolio, but our business, and start then allowing us to network and around, and it gives us a chance to break up the work habits of home, and then these clients start coming to us as well. So we've had people from all around Australia to a few from places like Canada coming over. So Yeah, it's awesome.
Fantastic. Oh, it's just so interesting. Mel, I just wanted to have a little bit of chat because I did a bit of a, social media stalk of both of you before today.
So did I. I was just going to say, I gently stalked you both, just a little bit. Migelly, those breast tattoos, number one, ow. That's like...
I mean, I don't personally have breasts, but I do tattoo a lot of breasts, and everyone says that they are a lot better than they did expect them to be.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I've done a lot of mastectomy scars, to areola tattoos, to full chest coverage. I think 90% of my client would be female, and that's where my body placement has to be individual. I can't just draw one of those tattoos for a girl who might have a D cup, and then it's going to be way too big on a girl and an A cup. So this is where it's quite important for us to have everyone in, or at least measure up and stuff.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much.
Jared, the dancing, wow. In heels, in those heels, dancing in those heels. I can't even walk in shoes like that.
It's quite interesting how I came into heels. I have always had a love of heels. Last year I actually did a cabaret at Brooklyn Standard, which is a venue in the city. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on in the cabaret was how my love of heels has, I guess, influenced my dance and also influenced my career. And I told this story I remember when I was about, I think I was 12 or 13, and my mum's boss at the time had just come back from a trip to Paris, and she gifted my mum with the most beautiful pair of heels I think I've ever seen. Still to this day, they were this black velvet stiletto, and they had these really intricate black rose petals in velvet as well on the front of them. And I remember sneaking into my mum's wardrobe one afternoon when she was out, and I took them down and I put them on, and I remember walking around the heels and I was like, this is the best feeling in the world. I was just so excited. But then obviously within the performing arts industry, and I think this is what's so fascinating about the fields that we are in, because they are very open and they are very much about expressing individuality, but there is always still this sense of taboo surrounding it. And especially as a male dancer, I was always told, no, you can't dance in heels, you've got to be masculine, you've got to be strong. But what I love about now is what is happening in society today is there's actually quite a masculinity and a strength that I feel when I am dancing in a pair of heels. And when you look at the history of heels, it was actually men who wore heels to start with. They wore them in court. It was a sense of stature, it was strength, and so it's very interesting to see how that fashion is now changing and coming back in. And now I put on a pair of heels and I'm ready to go for the day. It's just kind of comes second. But dancing in them definitely took a bit of practice and training. It's all about that balance and that weight placement. But yeah. But back to you. I love this. This is why I love an open panel discussion. Yes. Oh, that's a good sign. No, there we go. See, looking after us here at Pine Rivers Heritage Museum. Everyone's taking their chairs now. We're like, yes, we're good. That's all good. I was just looking at your Facebook and your Instagram and, seeing that you are a lover of all things vintage. I'm just reading my questions, just to make sure I word it correctly. But looking at how fashion is absolutely repeating itself and coming back in such fabulous ways. And it also seems to be the younger generation that is quite a strong driving force of that. I guess, what are your thoughts on that, and what have you seen in the workshops? I see that you do workshops and things like that as well. What are the things that you see that are influencing that change in fashion that we see today?
Well, my kids are 15 and 17, and I can definitely tell you the 90s has made a big comeback.
Absolutely.
Initially, I realised it was happening and I was not okay with it, because I saw the 90s fashion the first time around and it was not kind. Like those low-rise,
the low-rise
jeans. No, they do not love women. They do not love anybody. So, but kids have so much more access to, with social media, they can really look into style trends and how to do it, and they're just so much more put together than I was at 15. I think I was just running around in a circle at 15, and I see some 15-year-olds and I'm like, what? So, yeah, with the workshops, maybe not so much, because I tend to focus on very sort of, simple crafts and things like that. So, the basics of sewing or embroidery, or how to make a pom-pom, for example. So, and they're sort of timeless. In my eyes, you can sort of take such a simple thing but put your own spin on it. So it's definitely less stylish and more just personalised, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about your workshops. When did you start doing them? Kind of what was the idea behind them, and your reason, I guess, for wanting to do them?
So I guess by my mid-30s I had a pretty massive collection of vintage clothes, and started selling them online. And then I saw that the Caboolture Hub had studio spaces available for $50 a month. So I jumped in for a 6-month lease with them, and I stayed 2 years, and that was amazing because as well as selling clothes, I got to teach people all kinds of different things, just whatever I was interested in, really, and just met a lot of people that became friends, and also got myself known in the gallery and museum world, and they started to ask me to do workshops, sometimes in conjunction with exhibitions and things like that. So that was always, just like today, it's always a bit of a shock when someone says, can you come do a thing? I'm like, what, me? Because I'm a bit of a shy homebody, really, but so sort of it grew until I was doing series of public programs and things like that, and also doing large-scale installations in the gallery, and so sort of getting my face and skills out there a little bit. Yeah,
wonderful. I love it. It is cool. Sometimes, I guess, like you said, you kind of just found yourself falling into it because it is something that's just always been your world, and it's amazing how sometimes you don't realise you've been doing something for so long, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, actually, look, I can put this out to the world, and I think that's just such a wonderful gift to be able to give people.
I'm always really surprised when anyone else is interested. I'm just happily doing my thing, but then other people will say, what is that? So I guess it's that thing of never assume what the totality is of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, and you never know what people want, and sometimes you do just have to put it out there to see, and then there was always going to be someone that resonates with that and then finds that interesting, which I love. Migelly, what is something, do you have any, I guess, were there any specific projects or tattoos that you've worked on that I think have really stuck with you or resonated with you?
Usually it's a combination of maybe a piece or a client. Because with tattooing it gets quite personal, and you start to get a connection with your client because you're spending hours on end sort of finding out who they are and what they're getting. I guess one that would stick out for me is a now I would call friend, Bianca from Canada. She flew over, spent about 2 months here, got her whole back tattooed, and then I ended up doing a convention in Montreal that she got tattooed out. So it's sort of like one of those opposite sides of the world, client friendship that you now get with connecting with people and creating something for her. And it was, for her, it was a huge movement in her life, coming to Australia and getting over a bit of a dark past, to giving herself something to be proud of, to show off, to make her feel really good in her own skin. So it was a really cool project to work on something large scale and for someone so far away. Things like that, I do a lot of large scale work, and you really get hours upon end with this one individual. in your corner of your room. So yeah, it's projects like that, or ones with meanings, a memorial tattoo, or something that really helps people get by. From semicolon tattoos that take me literally 10 seconds to a full sleeve, maybe dedicated to loved ones. Yeah, they're all, it's crazy what, just putting a mark on someone can mean to them. So yeah.
Absolutely. I guess that's where it comes back down to the way we express ourselves. And I think it is such a beautiful thing. A very dear friend of mine, whose dog was her entire world, the dog passed away last year, and the dog's favourite toy was Piglet. And so she had a little piglet tattooed on the side of her body, and that for her was such a special moment that she was like, that's there for the rest of my life. And she says every time she sees it in the mirror in the morning, she says it just makes her smile and makes her feel good.
And that's, I guess, the satisfaction of being a tattoo artist some days is you can give that person something to take with them forever. Unfortunately, pets and loved ones won't last forever. So to give them that piece that they can look at every single day, or even the semicolon reminder is so powerful for that person who has had a hard time, or mental health is a huge thing, to look down and realise that I'm going to be okay, to help them out. The funny thing with the tattoo too is they're going to look down and they're going to see that, and they're also going to remember the person who did it, where they come up to me in the street and say thanks, and you did my tattoo, and sorry, I don't actually remember you at all, so I'm head down doing my work. But it is really becoming now this sort of fad and spotlight with artists that are sort of becoming a bit of a rock star persona with some of them, where a lot of artists are just happy to stay in their lane and just create their artwork, which is awesome. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's sometimes where you see some of the most meaningful, I guess, products come through and come from. What would be the piece that's taken the longest to do?
Well, some people try and achieve what we call a bodysuit, which is 2 full arms, 2 full legs, chest, back. These projects, they originally came from the Japanese culture. Everyone's seen the Yakuza and these full, beautiful ornament sort of bodysuits full of dragons and samurais, and the cultural tattoos are, I guess, where it all came from. If we look back, I think it was 3100 BC. They've now discovered Otzi, the Iceman, who had the first tattoos. And
yes, there was a woman, a mummified woman from 5,000 years ago.
Yep.
And they zoomed in on her, was a reindeer tattoo, and it was exquisite.
Yeah, and
such
now
a beautiful,
reproducing it, and mummified skin with, back in, I believe the Romans used to mark their soldiers with a certain amount of dots, and that was their, I guess, regiment numbers and stuff like that. The Romans also started marking their prisoners and their criminals to stand out from the crowd, which I guess started making people believe that this was me marking myself as a criminal, and look, the pirates and the goons and all that stuff, derived from that. But there's so much meaning behind it too. I believe the Egyptians used to use tattoos for medical procedures to mark people with certain diseases or certain, I guess, surgery things to make other people aware, of things like that. So, tattoos that take the longest are going to be, I do a lot of dot work, so it's individual dots with a single poke of a needle. So, creating a sleeve, it takes hours and hours and hours, just like the Aboriginal paintings with the dot work. It's not just a machine that just creates these dots. It's the design part, and people do forget that, that sometimes a tattoo might only take me 5 hours, but it took me 8 hours to draw it. So it's not going to sleep until 2:30 in the morning, tattooing at 8. People see that they were in the chair for 6 hours, where that tattoo really took 12, 13 hours. So that's the beauty behind tattoos.
Wow, it's so fascinating. I'm learning so much today. I love it. Mel, I wanted to talk a little bit about, obviously, when you do op shopping and the vintage and that kind of stuff, I guess the importance of upcycling, and to talk a little bit about upcycling and why it is so important, I guess, going into the future and where we are now today as a society with the environment and everything.
Absolutely. yeah, it's really exciting to see online platforms like Depop, which have sort of made selling used clothes look cool again, because I think it's sort of, for people who don't really get it, it sort of has a bit of a daggy, gross connotation, but I think it couldn't be further from the truth, because some of the items are like designer, designer label stuff, and often they're impeccable because people really look after them and sort of respect what they stand for as well. So, you're not going to sort of throw around a Gucci bag like it's like an old, canvas sack or something. You're sort of going to look after it, and then you can sell it for basically what you paid for it, which is really interesting. And I just think on a global sort of scale, we throw away like billions of kilos of clothing and textiles into landfill every year, and it just kind of sits there, and it's killing the planet. So I think, on a much bigger scale, that popping into the Vinnies or whatever just to have a quick look, and if you've got an event coming up, you can sort of get really creative with it, rather than just buying something that you'll wear once and then throw away.
Absolutely. I can't encourage people more, and it is just becoming so more readily accessible today. There's now op shops and vintage shops for literally every single decade that you can think of, and that's the wonders of Google. And I absolutely agree, when it comes time to your next event or your next outing, I do encourage you, go to have a look online and try and research your local op shop and your vintage shop, so we can do our bit for the environment and really recycle and reuse, because there is so much fabulous fashion out there that we have right at our fingertips. Before we jump into the open session time for our lovely audience here to ask us some questions, my final question was, the exhibition, it's personal, has items that range from time periods from the early 1800s through to now. So how do you think the conversation has shifted, or is still shifting, when it comes to freedom of expression? And what do you think still needs to happen and change going forward? I'll throw to you, Mel, for that one first.
I tend to think if we look at things in an intersectional way, so, sort of making space for like the nuances of gender identity, and also like cultural appropriation as well. Like if people sort of can, just chill out a little bit and think about these things and talk about them calmly, it makes a really beautiful space for everyone to safely be themselves. And I think that could only make the world a more beautiful place. Like, it's such a simple thing when you think about it. Like, if you're not hurting anybody, then where's the problem? So, yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. What about you, Migelly?
Yeah, well, if you look at cultural tattoos, everyone seems to accept them instantly. If a gentleman walked in here today with a full face of tumuku, no one would even bat an eyelid to think about his background, what he's done as a teenager, if he's been to jail or not what. But if I walk into this room full of face tattoos, people instantly assume, and I think that's the hardest part with tattoos, is people automatically assume what you've done or where you've come from with the way that you express yourself, for clothing to tattoos. So I guess what would be, tattoos are now becoming more acceptable through the generations, and in the 70s especially they became more mainstream, and it's still taking 30 years later, 40 years later to become more accepted, to now the point where I guess even myself feels has seen the shift. I was only born in the 90s, so I've only seen that sort of shift. But even now, I know when I was, say, 18, fresh, full of tattoos, getting ladies in their shopping centre grabbing their purse, to now them accepting the fact that the world is going to become tattooed, and each person is just expressing themselves through colour or the way they dress or their hair or whatnot. So I think it just needs to keep moving that way, and let people be people, let people express how they want. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so wonderful to see the change and the growth already just in the last 5 years, because I spent a lot of my time overseas, and I've only really been back in Australia for about 3 years now. And even 5 years ago, I would never have felt comfortable to walk down the street with my makeup and my heels on. But now it is such a change and a shift, and I just encourage everyone to keep that open mind and that open heart, because it is just such a wonderful way to see where we are going. So before we finish today, I just wanted to open the floor to all of you lovely people here. If anyone had any questions for Julie or Mel or Migelly or myself.
So I'm a nurse, and when I've attended patients, because I've been a nurse 45 years, but once upon a time when I'd be attending somebody, a male with tattoos, it would only have been a sailor or a seaman of some sort,
exactly,
a merchant sailor. And the proper seamen would have beautiful tattoos, but the merchant seamen, they were I think they'd done them themselves after a bottle of rum or something. But very rare. And if you ever saw a woman with a tattoo, it would be like you'd call someone and say, come and have a look at this. She's got a tattoo. So that's how it's culturally changed enough. And that's even from the 90s.
Well, there was a gentleman, Norman Collins, it goes by the name of Sailor Jerry, and it's now become sort of a household name with an alcohol brand or a clothing brand. And he was tattooing all the sailors out of Hawaii. And when I went to Hawaii, I visited his shop and his gravestone, and he was part of the Navy, and he was tattooing them all, and it's sort of become mainstream then. But it's funny how you mentioned that nowadays, if you started seeing the shift to women now becoming the most popular with the tattoos, but originally, if you look back in history, it was only the women who had tattoos. Sort of the Egyptians used to only allow the women to have tattoos, and now it's sort of doubled back on itself again.
Was that an ownership thing?
No, it was, I believe it was a beauty mark and a medical procedure, and then it became sort of the Romans using it for their soldiers and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Can I just add something on that note about the acceptance of tattoos? I've actually got quite a large back tattoo, but there have been so many times I've been standing in queues or in groups, and especially older ladies have tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh, what a beautiful tattoo." So, when I was younger, in my 20s, really tattooing was not. In the 80s and early 90s, tattooing, especially for women, was really quite out there. So I didn't get my first tattoo until I was in my 30s and then going into my 40s. So I just thought it was wonderful. There must be a whole generation of women older than me, in their 60s and onwards, who just wished they'd had that beautiful tattoo, where it just wasn't available to them.
It happens quite often. I think a couple of weeks ago, the lady I tattooed, she would have been about 85, 90, and her excuse behind it was her husband had passed, and she, finally going to get that tattoo that I've been wanting to get, and I've also tattooed a 95-year-old lady's breast with her son's name, and the funny story behind that was her son got mum written on his chest, and she came in, "Who tattooed my son?" "Oh, sorry, love, that was me." She's like, "Well, I want the same." I was like, "Okay, no worries." And "Where do you want it?" She said, "I want it the same." I was like, "Okay." And, she was super sweet. I remember her going, "All right, what's going to be on my breast?" I was like, "Okay, no worries." So she lifted up her shorts, and we had a bit of we had a little joke together, and those are the things that I love about tattooing. Is it's quirky, it's fun, every day's different. So it's definitely
more of a challenge with the older skin,
Yeah.
I'm talking 70s, 80s
Definitely.
older skin.
Yeah, so you got to stretch. That's the real key to tattooing, is really stretching that skin out. So the older we get, the more our skin stretches. So it's a living organism, so you really want to be able to get that line in straight, and the tissue becomes softer, and we're getting a needle that's pushing a fluid in so it can spread out. So it's harder in a sense of that, but it's rewarding.
You see some older tattoos where it looks like they've melted.
Yeah, so the pigmentation will essentially bleed underneath the skin over time. like I said, it's a living organism. It's going to spread. Moles become bigger, freckles become bigger, tattoos, pigmentation. It was never meant to be under our skin. So it's foreign. It will try and make its way out eventually, come to the surface. You'll see that some tattoos will raise in the heat. Or I know when I play rugby league, after every single game, my arms are all raised from the scar tissue. So yeah, it's a foreign matter in our body.
Interesting. I had a question for you, Julie, just before we wrap up. What was, I guess, what got you into the world of curating and collecting and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I think that started... come up here, sorry, come and see. My father was an upholsterer and a collector of antiques. And we would always go to, garage sales and rummage through old houses that were being demolished and things like that, as well as growing up with my father's workshop full of furniture and full of fabrics. So I think I didn't have a chance. And then when I was a teenager in the 80s, I wanted to be different. Mainstream fashion didn't really do it for me, so then I hit the op shops. And back in those days, there was a lot of 1960s stuff in the op shops. So, I think all that vintage collecting and then the interest in fashion history really kicked off then, yeah.
Fabulous. Because I really did love the collection and just the different items from different eras that you brought together. It was just fascinating.
I think we just have a treasure trove in our collection here. And I've been in the position about 4 years, and it's taken me that long to sift through everything that we have to start to see some themes emerging and some stories that need to be told through the objects. Yeah.
I guess I don't really know how to put it this way, but the stuff that I saw in that room, if I was to name it, I guess I would call it barn finds. For myself, if I have a 1966 Mustang, and there's this sort of taboo about keeping it exactly how it came out of the factory, but then now I'm putting my touches on it. With tattoos, I know that a lot of individuals will come in and say, I want the same tattoo as my dad, but a little bit different. Does it work with, vintage clothing? Do people now take exactly what's going on there, but now modernising it either with material or styles, or are we keeping exactly, would someone wear that stuff today, or would it be modernised?
I think there's definitely the purists who, and you can't miss them because they're like, the epitome of like the 1950s, and they'll like set their hair the way they used to do it in the 50s and wear the hat and the gloves and the bag and the shoes, and they're just impeccable down to their underwear, and then other people like me, I guess, who sort of take like the spirit of it and maybe have like one piece that's a vintage piece, or even something I've made out of vintage fabric, because I find there's not many like great vintage dresses that fit me. I don't know what they were eating
Nothing.
in the 50s, but like my grandmother's wedding dress, I couldn't get a leg in that when I was like 12, so I don't know. Did they eat like?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think it's like this whole beautiful spectrum that sort of goes from like the purists who just eat, sleep and breathe it to people like me who just kind of, for want of a better word, kind of bastardize the whole thing and take what pleases me and leave what doesn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got to say I do a bit of both. There are occasions where I am fully researched, authentic head to toe, including, the way I set my hair. I haven't quite got right down to the underwear yet, but, it's a matter of time. But like today, I'm wearing just a vintage-inspired dress. I'm wearing my mother's 1950s bracelet. So you can definitely mix it up or go full authentic when the occasion demands it.
Absolutely.
How old does my underwear need to be before I call it vintage?
Look, that's a good question. Depends on how many holes are in it, I guess.
I've got a lot of vintage clothes.
90s is considered vintage.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Sweet.
I'm personally insulted by that.
Well, I guess we're just nearing 12 o'clock now, so I guess we'll wrap up, but I just wanted to say a very big thank you to everyone for coming out here today. Let's give Julie a massive round of applause for this fabulous exhibition.
And to our wonderful host and guests as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.